to get compatible with their education system in Canada, which is a lot, right? After you've done something in your own country, you have to come to another country, and then while you're settling, while you're trying to juggle with your new life here, you have to worry about that as well. So that was my biggest challenge coming here to Canada and realizing that your education is not valid here.
Well, I think it wasn't valid on paper, but most of what you studied, you took it and you put it in practical use at your dealership and starting your own fashion company. So I would like to ask you, how did you, like, what made you go into fashion? And please tell us your journey.
Sure. I
Your
mean, this whole frustration with 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 the transcripts and credits with my education brought me to a point where I decided I don't want to study the same things that I've studied back home. And while I was thinking, oh, what is it that I can do now? Fashion was always on top of my mind. But, coming from South Asian background, the way your parents groom you, right? Oh, you have to have a degree, and, you have to have a valid thing to fall back on. And fashion there is considered as more like a hobby.
hobby.
So when I came here, and I was like, well, I have a degree. It's not recognized in this country, but I do have it. So I said it's my opportunity to probably do what I like to do, and I just applied to Parsons, New York. I got into this school, and there I just started my journey with fashion, starting there.
Um, but you particularly chose leather jackets or leatherware, let's put it that way. Why was that? What made you so interested? You could design anything. Why leather? What made you go into it?
So this again is it was very coincidental. I was looking for a leather jacket for myself. Everything that I saw in the market was pretty similar, moto jacket style, everything very similar, nothing different. Or what was different was really high in price. So I decided to design my own jacket. I reached out to a manufacturer. I made a sample, and I used to wear that sample pretty much everywhere where I went. And people loved the design. People loved the details, and that just triggered my journey into designing jackets. I started off with jackets, and then slowly I transitioned that into a whole leather line. And I just realized that there's not as much there's not that much of niche in leather market. And that just gave me an opening to where what I should start with, and that's where I got started.
So, can you give me a brief description uh, about like your styles? Like what inspires you? Like how do you come about? Like, let's say if you're designing a leather jacket or a leather piece, like what makes your collection so different from collections that we see regularly?
Yeah, I tried to incorporate even within leather. There's this different textures, so I definitely try to incorporate different textures into my jacket. One being hand woven basket weave. This I came across a group in China through an NGO. They weave hand woven like actually like the basket weave, and which I incorporated into my designs, and that's now become like my signature. So that just gives it texture. I use it in different variations on my jackets, and also a lot of material that is probably not used in jackets, like a thick pony hair fabric, which is mostly used for shoes. I use it for jackets. A lot of zipper details, a lot of like rivet details. So I just try different ways to make it different with textures, but also design wise, like if you see a simple jacket, it will have a different lapel or different length front and back. So and most of my designs are actually inspired by architecture or by travels. And mostly it comes through fabric, but then it all comes together with all the other inspirations as well.
Interesting. And I would like to ask you, as a South Asian woman, um, what difficulties have you faced, um, not just in fashion, but just generally, like, because the reason my, like, on my platform, I want to raise awareness and discuss what we different people face, and how, what's our way to overcome it, so that through us other women can learn and move forward, and maybe through our stories, or maybe something they can get motivated. So yes, Malika, what would you
I
like to
mean,
tell us?
I think not just as a South Asian women, but as a women in any new country, I would say, um, you face challenges. One, because you're a different person in that country. Second, because you're a new person, like you don't have any groups to fall back on. You're starting fresh. So there's a lot of variations like that. But also there's always that whichever group that you're trying to break into, right? There's always a group that's formed. In order to get in, sometimes you have to prove your talent. Sometimes you just have to fit in. So there's a lot of different things. But in the beginning when I started, like just my with my own example,
Yes, please.
um, like I used to seek validation from different groups or different people that had a say in the fashion industry here in Canada, right? Um, well, and I would take those comments to heart, thinking, oh, this person didn't like my collection or things like that, right? But as you grow or as you move forward in life, you realize that one person may like your collection, but the other person may not, and vice versa, right? Um, you're pouring your heart out there. Um, two or three comments or two or
Sorry
three
about
people.
the noise. This is downtown.
Oh, no worries. I can't even hear it. But just saying that some people's judgments cannot lead to your opinion about your own brand. So I just learned from that you can't just because somebody said that you're not good, you can't just stop there. I think it should come from within. If you need any improvement in your collection, you would see it and you would think, oh, I need to get better at this, and you yourself will um, you know i- give that to your collection. So like basically I've just learned that there'll be a lot of obstacles. A lot of people don't have to agree with what you do, but in the end it's all about you. If you agree, if you're very sure about what you want, I think it's just the way to move forward and leave everything behind. Like in our conversation, like I told you,
Yeah.
right? Be positive, choose what
Yes,
chooses you instead of chasing people that don't choose you. Because
I
there's a
love
lot,
that.
there's like this whole universe, right, to choose from. So why attract yourself to something negative? Like definitely go after the positive and choose what chooses you.
One last question. Um, what are some of the stereotypes that you have faced, being just a woman in fashion, a woman working in the car industry, actually? So, I mean, you don't have every day someone who does what you're doing. You have this amazing fashion career, but then at the right beside it, you also are an entrepreneur, you have a dealership. So do you come across some stereotypes where you think men just say, what would she know how to run a dealership, or I don't know?
Oh yeah, I get a lot of that. um, as a woman, what do you know about a car? As a woman, you don't fit in with this group of men here. A lot of those things on a daily basis. And you know what? um, and I think it's not just me. There's very few female in car industry, and I think they they all go through that. At least I am on the higher end of the leadership,
So
and
it's
I experience it at a lower level. But I have seen like women go through this at a very higher level. Like they get distinguished between. their sense of knowledge, or how smart they are within the group of all male, or women trying to fit in into this whole male dominant world, right? And also their language sometimes isn't appropriate for the women standing around them. So there's a lot of little things
Barrier.
that I think guys don't really get it, that they can be uh, damaging, or they can be, they're not appropriate to say in
Or
front of a women. But yeah, this happens on a daily basis. I'm sure not just with me, but with all the other women. And in my dealership, I try to encourage an environment where um, I don't put up with this nonsense, and I don't allow this to happen to other women working in my dealership. So hopefully, I mean, when these men go work for somebody else, they carry on with this stuff that they have learned at this dealership. But yeah, I think there definitely needs to be a change, especially in this industry where they think that this is a male dominant male, they're the ones that this industry belongs to them. They think that. I think that needs to definitely change.
and so before we leave, would you? I know you work with some charities, and you just recently did something with diversity. So would you please like to inform everyone how it works and how can we support your charity?
For sure. So recently I just did a campaign for diversity and inclusion. The campaign is called Diversity is Love. It is about including everybody, gender, race, any distinctions in this world, right? And the charity that I've chosen to partner with is Canadian Center of Diversity and Inclusion. It's an international charity, and they support all sorts of gender discrimination, or racial discrimination. And so 20% of all the sales from my clothing goes to this charity, and 100% from the sales of the mask will go to this charity. So this campaign is on for till 30th of April, and we launched it on February 14th. So it's been receiving really good momentum right now. So I'm just hoping that people do follow up
Continue.
with that.
And so I would really encourage everyone who gets a chance to please check Malika's collection. I will put the link for Malika's collection at the bottom of the conversation. And as Malika said, 20% um, of from her collection would go to the charity, and 100% from the mask would go to the charity too. But also, other than that, please go check out her collection. As Malika suggested, her jackets are really interesting and they're very detail oriented. Um, Hopefully, if I get a chance, I would love to stop by and pick one for myself. And my brothers, they also wanted to look at Malika's collection. So hopefully, in the future, I can get down there and do that. But thank you, Malika. Before you leave, would you like to say something for the younger audience who would either want to be a fashion designer or want to, a woman who is interested in cars and would like to work in the automobile industry?
I think persistence is the answer for everything that stops you, right? Just be just perceive to do what you have set out for. Don't give up. Don't let anybody bully